Hello, everyone. My name is Ruggieri. I am the assistant curator at the Abrams Engel Institute for the Visual Arts, located at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. I'm excited to be here today with artist Donté K. Hayes. Donté attended Kennesaw State University, where he received his BFA in ceramics and printmaking. He received his MA and MFA from the University of Iowa, and in 2017 received the University of Iowa Arts Fellowship. The idea of welcoming plays a major role in Donté's practice. He has investigated the pineapple as a symbol of welcoming and how and where the symbol originated. His work reflects on his own personal experiences, navigating through public spaces and often not feeling welcome. His work suggests the past, discusses the present, and explores possible futures interconnected to the African diaspora, while also examining deeper social issues that broaden the conversation between all of humanity. Donté has had recent exhibitions that include a group show at the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago, the Association of Visual Arts in Chattanooga, and the Museum of Contemporary Art of Georgia in Atlanta. And he was also recently included in the 2020 Red Clay Survey at the Huntsville Museum of Art in Huntsville, Alabama. Donté, I want to thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks, Tina. I'm excited to be with you. It's going to be great.
It's gonna be great. I'm really excited for everybody to get to know you and your work a little bit better. First, I just want to ask, how have you been doing during these last 7 or 8 months of the pandemic and everything that goes along with that?
Well, there's ups and downs because it is the pandemic. So at the very beginning, I was still at the University of Iowa going through my thesis. And because, get this, March 11th, I remember the date, was the last time I was in my studio at Iowa. Oh, wow. And and I never got back there until June to get my stuff and say bye-bye. Yeah. So that already started. So from March to June, I was not in the studio at all. And just doing Zoom, teaching a class on Zoom. And there I was teaching ceramics 1 class. So it was really awkward. You can't really teach.
How do you teach ceramics when you're not first? Yeah.
Yeah, right. And it's ceramics 1. So it's really you're just now learning, even if you like the material, you don't even know when the material is actually dry, because you don't even know what it would look like. So that was just to be explaining that. And then we just decided just to do videos and things of that nature to make it simple, because we were all going through something. We didn't know what to do. And so from there, and then I moved to New Jersey to be with my partner. And then we ended up getting married this October. October 3rd. So yeah. So that's a great thing. So it's I always say, for me, the pandemic was, definitely it was different and not good, but personally, a lot of great things happened in my life. I got married, I graduated without even doing a thesis show. I mean, I still did a paper, but I didn't have a thesis show. And, and the opportunity to still show my work was really powerful too. Showing work with Mindy Solomon, which she's an amazing person. She's just not someone that shows my work. We're family. We talk all the time. We talk every day, actually.
Mindy is amazing in that way.
Yes, she is. Yeah. I just love her, so she's we're family. We just love one another. So it's not really business to us. So, so that's always been great that regardless of what's going on, people are still interested in the work. And I just recently, I'm in Georgia right now, back home in Georgia, and I just recently did a residency at Hambridge, and I definitely recommend it. I'm giving them a plug. Yes, I am. So I mean, it's short. It's very short.
Yeah. So I was going to say, you can go ahead and tell us a little bit about that residency if you want, and how you came about it and the types of work you made.
Yes, that's great, because a lot of because of the pandemic, and that's how we started the conversation. All the things I was supposed to do that summer just got canceled because they weren't able to figure out how to make it socially distant. So I didn't make any work until November in clay. I am doing some other work, but I'm talking specifically in clay.
Okay.
I haven't made work since this residency in Hambridge, which is really powerful. The reason why I recommend it, one is because they can do it socially distanced. You get your own home or your own studio space, so you can make work. So technically, you don't even have to be around anyone in the other fellows there.
That's great. I mean, now it's really great during the pandemic.
But we all chose to like eat dinner together, with our masks on and everything, and like spread it apart. And I met many great people there that I'm like looking forward to. Like we still talk on text like all the time. Like I feel like we just became good friends because we all went through it together.
Yeah.
So I definitely recommend it. And you don't just have to do clay.
Yeah.
You can be a writer, poets, scientists. They love scientists there as well because of Mary Hambidge. Partner was a scientist and architect. So
amazing. So it's really an opportunity for all different types of backgrounds and
and you don't need to be with Wi-Fi for 2 weeks.
Sometimes it's really worth disconnecting from the computer, especially now more than ever, because like you said, I mean, you did a lot of Zoom, you're teaching on Zoom. I mean, here at AEIVA, we've done a lot of virtual programming and things like this. So more so than ever, we were living in our computers before, and now we are literally living in our computer.
Yeah, so true.
So it's nice to have that kind of disconnect sometimes and get back to nature, get back to the fundamentals of things. And get in the studio, because obviously you weren't able to be in a studio in terms of your clay practice and your sculpting practice. So, which I'm sure that had to have been hard to not be able to, especially during all the things going on right now in 2020, you don't have that medium to kind of just put yourself into and just really work.
But the good thing was that myself and another amazing artist, Antoine Williams, who lives in North Carolina, he's the Center for Afrofuturist Studies resident in Iowa City. That's where the Center for Afrofuturist Studies is.
Okay.
And I used to be on the board of Public Space One, which houses the Center for Afrofuturist Studies, which is in Iowa City. And we've been asked, Antoine and I, to do a 5-story mural in the heart of Iowa City. So we've been working on that over Zoom. So I've still been making work. Yeah, so I've still been making work. It's just not in clay.
Yeah, exactly. Which is good, because I mean, we all need an outlet right now to keep ourselves moving. And we have, that's one great thing about artists, like that I've noticed, is that everyone I've spoken to and had contact with, they find a way to just persevere through and just keep making work, keep being creative, and getting through it as best they can.
Yep. And the great thing, I just wanted to just say one more thing about the Hambidge, since we were talking like what I was making. I've been invited to show at the next Atlanta biannual. So
amazing.
And the curator, she's amazing, Dr. Jordan. We had a lot of conversations over Zoom, and I went and told her, I was like, wouldn't it be great if I used the Hambidge residency to actually make work, from our conversations and things that I'm thinking about for the biannual, especially, living from Georgia and then actually making the work in Georgia, not making work that I had already had previous.
That is amazing. That's a nice connection to making work while you're there. That's going to be shown there. So I want to get kind of into your background a little bit. So from doing a little bit of research, I know that you love science fiction and comic books, superheroes such as the Black Panther, and all of these have played an important role not only in your art, but in your personal development. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, because like, first of all, a lot of people, when they meet me, they just assume, because they've seen my ceramic work, they think that's what I mostly do. But growing up, I didn't have a school that had clay, so you drew. You did to show that you were a good artist. Everyone was like, "Can you draw me? Can you draw me?" When you're like in elementary school, middle school, and high school, that was what you had to do. You had to know how to draw.
Yeah.
So like, I consider myself like a 3-dimensional printmaker.
Yeah.
But growing up, I learned how to draw through comic books, and my favorite comic book pen and ink and pencil drawer was Jack Kirby, and he's the one that created like all of the great titles of Marvel that you heard of, like Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, and then people were like, Black Panther? Yes. He's the one that created the idea of Black Panther as well. And so that was my favorite comic book growing up. And so in the 80s and 90s, Black Panther wasn't like how it is now. Everyone's like, yeah, Black Panther's tight. But growing up, Black Panther was like, who? Like, oh, that guy, the guy that's from Wakanda, who's like the wannabe Batman? Nah, he's just okay. And, you know, so I was always defending it. That's why it's so funny now that I don't have to do any defending. Everybody's like, yeah, Black Panther's the best.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
I was always fighting people.
Exactly.
I was getting in fights over it. You know, like, why you got that Black Panther? Because I was like collecting them, because like they started out in the 60s. So I collect all the old ones, and they were like cheap back then because, you know, Black Panther wasn't really popular. So I like have like a collection from like Black Panther #1 all the way to like number 30 straight.
Oh wow, that's incredible.
I was able to get them cheap when I was in, you know, middle school. Yeah. So now they're worth something because I don't ever even like open up the packaging. You know what I mean?
You're a true collector in the sense that you don't touch them, you don't take them out of the plastic. Yeah.
I'm the comic book nerd, like on The Simpsons. You know, like you know. Like I remember my brother and I, we were like when we were younger, we would just read it once. We would read comic books just one time.
Yeah.
And then we would make notes. We'll make notes so we remember like that's what happened in this book, because we didn't want to open it up again because it would lose like the mint to just like good. You know?
And I can relate to that. I mean, I didn't collect comic books, but when I was younger, I collected Barbies. And I refused to take them out of the box. Like I was the kid that had maybe one or two that I played with, and then the rest stayed in their box. And everybody thought I was crazy. But I'm like, you can't touch them.
No, you can't touch that. You're so smooth. And then like my uncle, he also collected comics. And then he gave us the real scoop. I don't know about this, but so I was like really working hard, saving money. You buy two.
Yes.
You buy two of them. So you can have one that you mess around with, look through it, and then one that you never touch. And I was like, oh, that's smart. So like growing up, I started like a friend and I said like, man, you're kind of good at drawing. So why don't we just make a little crew? So we had like 3 of us that we would actually make comic books.
Oh,
and
wow.
we had a whole crew. And my dad, he had his own pediatrician practice. And so he had like an old school Xerox copier machine.
Yeah.
So we would go to his office and like, you know, print out all of our comic books and sell it to like all of like the neighborhood instead of like, and so instead of like back in the day when like kids were the ones like cutting people's grasses, now you get the company to like mow the grass. But back then in the 80s and 90s, you had like, you know, you had the like the neighborhood kids do it.
Exactly.
So we were like, man, forget all that. We ain't doing that. We're going to sell our comic books, to the point that my comic book got so popular, I ended up getting subscriptions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. People started subscribing to the comic books that I was making.
What was your comic book about?
The comic book was like a spin-off of like a Black Panther.
Gotcha.
You know?
Yeah.
So it was awesome. Like, so it was like a Black Panther mix with like Iron Fist. And Iron Fist was like, you know, it was another thing. It was in like a crew, so it was like the Avengers or like so they always like went through stuff. And then I had like a person who was friends with Peter Parker.
Oh, that
But they didn't know that they were both superheroes.
Yeah. Now the question is, do you still have some of those from when you were a kid? Or
now you're trying to play me. But yeah, so like a friend of mine who actually goes to the University of Iowa, and we went to school together at Kennesaw State. And I remember at one New Year's party, she was like, man, you don't got no comic books, because she collects comic books, but she's on the other side. She's on the DC side. And I don't play with DC. Unless it's like Batman. And sometimes I like in Green Lantern. Yeah. But other than that, I didn't really mess with DC. So like she was showing off about all her her Batman. So so on that New Year's that year, I was like, well, fine then. I'm gonna bring my Black Panthers. So like in one of the because I don't know what it was. I guess, you know, when you have a little too much to drink, you start wanting to open them up. You know, I was opening, like, I would never do that. I would never do that. But it was like, I opened them up. And in one of the comics, it was one of my old comic books when I was like 11 years old that I made. And we had a laugh. It was hilarious. It was so bad. So like, she always like plays me on that. She's like, oh, I remember that New Year's when you were showing up, and then we saw that 11-year-old trying to draw. And I was like, man, for 11-year-old, it was banging. I was having subscriptions. She was like, yeah. For 11-year-olds, that was tight. But you look at it now, and you're like, man, that's garbage.
That's the stuff that you keep in the shoebox in your closet. That's not.
No doubt. No. So that was funny. I'll have to like email it to you so you can see it. It's funny.
Yeah, I would love that. So obviously you take influence like from all of these things, and they obviously resonated in a way for you. So I think I remember you talking about in one of your lectures, the idea that having these like smart, intelligent, and then like proud figures that you could relate to as a Black person. And like I think you talked about Star Trek, like having the Black people in the future, which is not something that was seen very much. And so I think that's a really powerful sentiment for a young kid to see and be able to resonate. This is someone that looks like me, and I can attach to that and help. And that is what influenced you and helped you progress, and kind of what I got from it.
Yeah, that's great, because that's funny, because like my mentor, Kennesaw State, Jeff Campana, we were just talking, because like since I'm in Georgia, I was able to go back to the old school and see what it was like. And we were talking about like LeVar Burton and like how powerful LeVar Burton was, like my favorite character in Star Trek Next Generation. And it was deep because like he was blind, but yet he was the one flying the ship.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So that also spoke something like even deeper. A Black man who is blind is actually showing all worlds how to get through this darkness. You know what I mean? Because like we know what darkness looks like, but we also know how to withstand darkness at the same time. So I thought that was really powerful too. Even though I don't even know if they even like thought about that, like Gene Roddenberry, but he probably did. He was very forward thinking when he came up with the characters. So I thought that was really powerful. I always think about that, like Geordi, you know, was like amazing, super smart, but yet at the same time, he couldn't even get a date. You know what I mean? So like, I could relate to that, you know, can't get a girl, you know, saying stuff like that. So it's really powerful to like see characters, because like even today, now, that's the reason why Black Panther is so popular, for a bad reason too, because we don't see anyone in the future that is smart, that is using their intelligence, not their like bravado, to help other people. And the technology is used to help all people, not just Black people.
Exactly.
It's humanity.
Exactly.
So once again, that's another problem with, you know, the future that I see like in pop culture. Like we only can say Black Panther now. There's no one else that we can think of it from like in a pop cultural standpoint in the future that we can say, oh yes, a Black person in the future. You know, it's still the same way.
It's
like
still, and so
it's basically. Go ahead.
Sorry, I have a little bit of a lag.
Oh yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah. That's a part of the technology.
yeah, exactly. Part of living in our computer.
Yes.
So also what I found interesting is, so as a young adult, you were, you know, you're from Georgia, and you had the opportunity to create like artworks for major hip hop artists like Lil Wayne and Criss Cross and Outkast. Can you talk about like how that experience guided your artistic practice?
Oh yeah, because like first of all, when I was at the University of Iowa, and you teach like, you know, the preliminary like first like ceramic class, or you teach the first like drawing class. First thing I would tell all my students is, you do not have to go to school or in an institution to be an artist. You know, I was 18 years old, had a dream to like make posters and like and things of that nature, and I made it happen. I went to the places where they're doing it. I ended up meeting a good friend of mine. I mean, we don't talk now, but back then, his name was Pei, and his cousin was one of the artists on Criss Cross.
Okay.
So this is how it started. So I went to their house and I was like, oh, dang, this is crazy, right? So he was like, Donté, he's a badass drawer. And I was like, oh, yeah. So that's how they would mention me. Like, this guy can draw. So they were like, okay, will you draw some stuff for me? So I would just do some things like that. And then my friend Pan and he started a company that he would like do posters and things of that nature, as well as clothing, like t-shirts and things of that nature. And I was designer of those t-shirt ideas. But that's how I was able to get into the door, because he knew all the people, so it was very cool that, like, once again, I didn't have to like be a rapper. I didn't have to like act like something different. I could be who I was. So I always try to tell people that, like, be who you are. If you're an artist, be an artist. Don't say that you're a student. You're an artist. So but what if I acted like I can't be around these people? I can't make this kind of money, because I'm 19, 20 years old. You know what I mean? Instead, I said, like, this is what I wanted to do, and this is what I believe in. So I'm going to make it happen.
Is that kind of where your interest in printmaking started? Was at that point in your life, or had you had interest in printmaking and arts from childhood? Is it all?
Yep. My mom named me Donté because she says that she had a dream, but or an angel said that I was going to be an artist.
That's amazing.
So like she kind of made me an artist in a way. And it's her birthday today, so I'm giving her a shout out. I love you, Mom.
Well, happy birthday.
She was born on Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's amazing.
So it's deep. So like I've always, like, everyone in my family knew that I was going to be the artist. It was just like I was told that I was an artist. You know what I mean? So that's what I did. And it just, like, not only I was told, I actually enjoyed it. And actually, I was the one, like, when you would go to school, like now people go to private lessons and things like that, or they go to art clubs. I didn't have all that. We didn't do all that. I was the art club. I went to this, and looked up how to, do a still life. I made my own still lives trying to learn, That reason why I go back to, a lot of people want to be hand filled. Like, here, give me all this. You need to do this for me. You need to mentor me this. Some things you can do on your own, and then there's other things that if you need help, you need to speak. So I always and that's probably the reason why, like, I always believed in the work. If it needs to be in print, it will be print. If it needs to be a ceramic piece, it will be ceramics.
And that's the thing about an artist, is that, in order to hone in your skills and know what you want to say, you have to practice, you have to research. Nobody's going to just come to you and give it, this is what you have to do. This is, you have to know what you want to say and how you want to say it, and what medium you're going to use. And so that takes years and years for people to do. And it's great when you can start young and kind of play around with it and figure it out. But it's also equally as great to find your passion later in life.
Yeah, true. And that's kind of how I found ceramics, because I went back to school late in life. I didn't go to undergrad until 30s. So at Kennesaw State, and then I was like going there for printmaking and drawing, because that's what I knew. And the only reason why I took a ceramic class was because I needed it for my printmaking BFA. So
just kind of went from there, I
guess. Very true.
That it's kind of funny how life is that way. I didn't go get my undergrad until my late 20s. And so I didn't know that this art world existed really, and that I would just gravitate towards it as much as I did until my late 20s. Up until then, I was just kind of a fish out of water going around. And it's, I always tell people, when it's right, and you'll know it. And that's when it happens. And sometimes it's by happenstance, and sometimes your life path takes you where it's supposed to take you, and in the time it's supposed to take you.
So
I'm
true.
going to go ahead and share my screen to show some of your artworks. And then I wanted to get into the heart of your research, which is the pineapple is a major symbol in your research, and you reference it a lot in your work. So I want you to talk a little bit about that research and why this pineapple is so important.
Yeah, great. This is fun. I'm enjoying this, Tina. So this is I like how we're flowing into things. But the pineapple is something big that a lot of people, since like probably a lot of people here that's going to be seeing this Zoom talk, are from the South. Mm-hmm. So it's not something that we don't know what it is. We, like when I went to Iowa, it was a little bit like, I don't see pineapples often, but for us, we see it everywhere we go. And it's like, just like we go to someone's house and we'll see a pineapple just sitting there, or we'll go to a building and you'll see like on the doorpost or on you'll see like these little pineapple symbols everywhere. Yeah. And you don't really know why, but you just are told that it's because it's welcoming and hospitality, and that's how you know it, but you don't know where it came from. Yeah. So going to the University of Iowa starting in 2017, I completely changed the work. Most of my ceramic work were like, I would make boom boxes that would actually be able to be actually make music out of clay. So It was like, yeah. So I was speaking the idea of like, hip hop is the one universal thing that Black people has created music that all can see what Black culture is and love the humanity in Black people. So that's where it was coming from. Mm-hmm. But moving to the Midwest, it was very like, dropping, like shocking that I would walk around and I would see like no one that was not even Black, not even a person of color. Mm-hmm. Like I could go like weeks without seeing anyone that looked like me. Wow.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is in parts of the Midwest. Mm-hmm. And so I never really felt like I was in the right environment. You know what I mean? It's just, I always felt weird. Like I was always like, that's the Black guy. Yeah, we're so glad you're here. Like, even though that may seem welcoming, but that's not welcoming. No. To feel that way. So that started making me think like, what do I always think of when I think of something welcoming? And that what popped up, a pineapple. So I was like, but I want to know more. Why is that the symbol? Yeah. So at the University of Iowa, I started doing a lot of research and like finding out like where it came from. First of all, which I didn't even know, most people assume that pineapples are from Hawaii. Mm-hmm. First of all, Hawaii never even heard of a pineapple. It's not a part of their culture. It's not a part of their agricultural culture either. That came in later until 1880 because of the Dole Pineapple Company saw it as a way of like fantasizing and romanticizing a new province that ended up becoming a state of the United States. So they were using it as like a branding tool. Yeah. But we get the idea of the pineapple, where does it even come from? It's from South America, so like Paraguay, Peru, and Brazil and those areas. Yeah. And the indigenous people there, they used it actually as like multiple things, as ceremonial. They used it as decoration. They used it as a beer. They even used it as beer. They even used it as money. So like they would trade it with Barbados, different Caribbean areas, and like Barbados is one of the biggest ones, and they would go back and forth and do trading with Barbados, the indigenous people. Mm-hmm. And then during the colonial times and Enlightenment period, the English came to South America and started bringing enslaved Africans and also enslaving many indigenous people to cultivate the pineapple in a bigger and stronger way and bring it back to the colonies, may it be in the Caribbean or in which ended up becoming the United States. Mm-hmm. So like South Carolina is like one of the biggest known places for pineapples. Their symbol at Charleston, South Carolina, actually is a pineapple. Yeah. So also in Savannah, they also had cultivation in Savannah, Georgia. But they would send it all over the different provinces and colonial colonies. And then they would also send it back to England. Mm-hmm. And so that's just how we get the idea of welcoming and hospitality. So first, hospitality came from the colonies and colonial ideal of the way to truly be hospitable to somebody is through wealth. Mm-hmm. You cannot really be hospitable to somebody if you don't have the power and the money to welcome someone in someplace. So what they would do is they would put a pineapple on like their front yards, but mostly at their dinner tables as a decoration. They would never eat the pineapple. So this is actually like how we get the idea of decorative arts. Yeah. The pineapple was seen as a decorative art, just like ceramics is. And so after the party is over, they still didn't eat the pineapple. When it would start to get ripe and start to go bad, their servants would take it and give it to their poor and say, you know, here, take this, eat our shit. Because it's like saying that, like, even our power, we can like give you, you know, that we're so godlike that we will give you stuff that is like, for them, one pineapple was worth like $8,000 to be given. So
they're so wealthy that they can just let this rot and then give it away.
Yes. And then the only people that ate it were the poor.
Yeah.
So how do we get the idea of welcoming from this? So once again, because we know a pineapple can also show time, because over time you can say, oh yeah, this is a good pineapple, but after 7 days, it will start to go bad.
Yeah.
So when slave ships would come to dock, the foreman would run out and put a pineapple on a spike to signify a new shipment of enslaved Africans have arrived. And they did that also because they would know how long they were there, because when it would smell bad.
Yeah.
Wow. Isn't that deep? So this is like one of the first things someone who is coming to a new world, don't know what's going on. That's one of the first things they will see is a pineapple.
Yeah.
That's deep.
It's real deep, and it's really powerful. And you think today, you know, when we eat a pineapple, we would never, like, I personally would have never known any of that, you know. And
well, first of all, you might have even thought it was from Hawaii.
There's like no way. I would have never thought that a pineapple had that kind of symbol and power and darkness to it, really.
Yep.
And so it's very interesting. And so how do you incorporate that idea, like, into, or the symbol or the shape into these ceramic works?
Okay, so let's go back. What does a pineapple look like? You know what I mean? It does. It looks very exotic. Let's be real. It looks alien. It does look alien. If you, and I know that you've seen some of my talks on Zoom, I even show a picture what a pineapple looks like before it's completely bloomed.
Yeah, it does not look like.
It looks like something from Mars.
It does.
Doesn't it? It does not look
really
like
creepy.
something. Yeah, it's very creepy. So that also like played a lot to like things that I'm already thinking about, science fiction and like, you know, new worlds and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So, and also, you know, bravado and like power that you get in hip hop. So all those things like played the part why I was so interested more when I found out all this research.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. I'm looking at it formally. Also, a pineapple looks very hard to get into. How do you get into it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So again, let's just talk about it formally, even before we know any of the conceptual reasons. You know, it's hard to open, but once you open it, it's like refreshing. It tastes amazing. You like get full, you know. Yes. It becomes comfortable. Yeah. But before you open it, it is not comfortable to open.
No.
But at the same time, it also looks regal, because the top of a pineapple kind of looks like a crown.
It does.
So I always like recognized it kind of like Biggie Smalls, like the Notorious B.I.G. Yeah. Like he had a crown that's in the back, the iconic, you know, crown from the side. So I always thought like a pineapple was like his crown. Yeah. But it also plays to all of the different things that my research was speaking about, like that this is coming from royalty. They're seeing this pineapple as something different than we are. So I chose to make the work Black as well, because first of all, I wanted to get, before all these ones that you're showing now, they were colorful. Okay. And yeah, they were very colorful. And then I had and I switched that idea after having an interesting, crazy critique when I was first showing it at the University of Iowa. And I was really excited about the opportunity to show the work. It was my first critique. I was the first grad in ceramics to show the work. And people did, so they didn't know who it was. They didn't know a Black person made it, white person, Asian, they didn't know. People just came in there. The only people that knew who made it were my other cohort in ceramics. Yeah. They were super excited. They were like, man, Donté, I'm so glad you're the first one. You're gonna hype us up, because like we know you're banging, you're doing something. We don't know what it is, but we know it looks good. Yeah. We don't really understand the research because they never asked.
Yeah.
So, mind you, there's only one other person of color in the room, in this whole room of like 18 people. I'm the only Black person, and there's another person in there that's a person of color. So before anyone know that who made this work, there's a lot of like second year and third years in the cohort of the grad program. It was like, man, this is amazing. Whoever's making this, they're really doing something. Mm-hmm. And then when I was like feeling, you feeling a little good about yourself. Yeah. Yeah. What up? And he's like, thank you, it's me. And then we're like, what? You making this? Why is it colorful? Why are you making pineapples? Are you Hawaiian? You're Black. You should be making pineapple. You should be making watermelons. These are the things that I was said by the cohort. And mind you, these are all white people saying this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I assumed that. And so obviously they changed their tune the moment they found out who is actually making the work. And
yes. But it was like, why are you making this kind of work? Mm-hmm. We liked this work until we found out a Black man made it. You should be making this kind of art. Mm-hmm. So that really like struck me to think about like, once again, we're talking about welcoming. Yeah. This place, for some people, it was welcoming. And sometimes it is welcoming. You can go to a place that can be both, can't you?
Yeah.
A lot of people try to say, oh man, you're saying Iowa wasn't welcoming. I never said that. I said that it could be everything. We're human beings.
Exactly.
Look at me as a human. All human beings are not always bad. They're not always good. Yeah. They are nuanced. You know what I mean? Depending what kind of relationship what you have with someone, you might be like, oh man, they're cool. They're funny. You're like, no, I don't have that same kind of relationship. Everyone has different relationships, but it always seems different when you're speaking about artists of color. Yeah. It always has to be meaning that it must mean their identity. What about my work is actually meaning humanity?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
It's universal. My ideas and my work is universal. No one's looking at someone who's a white person and thinking that their work isn't universal, even though their experiences I would know nothing about. Probably, maybe I would. You know what I mean? Yeah. But there's many people who are not Black who love hip hop. Yeah. There's a lot of people who are not Black who love Star Wars just as much as me.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So there's a lot of things that people, but yeah, as soon as you see artists of color do it, then that's when it's like, wait, what? Yeah. So that's when I started to really think about like, instead of using glaze, I wanted to research what would be a clay body that will give me more content. Okay. And that content was a clay body that actually is a brown clay that once it's fired to at least cone 1, it will automatically turn black in the firing.
Yeah, that's something I did not know about your work. I thought there was some sort of glaze or some sort of paint that you put on them, but it's all just the material in which you've chosen. It's its natural state, which is amazing to me that it goes, that you found. And I don't know enough about the different types of material for clay and what would cause it to be that way. But I think it's extremely interesting. I think the concept of it is there's a lot of formal elements that make it really interesting, and then also conceptual elements that are really interesting when it comes to the idea that it's just the material. Once it gets hot enough, it changes to this black color.
Exactly. And it also speaks to material can be changed, just like human beings can be changed by an environment, which I was in a new environment, especially when you're in an environment where you are with other people. Okay, let's be real. If you're at school, you're thinking you're with other people who are intelligent. I mean, that's just the obvious thing. You're all in school, you're thinking that you're in grad school. So that's a higher level of like learning. So you think you're already in a base level. But that has nothing to do with it, I found out. So going back to the idea how I merged the pineapple with the use of this clay body, going back formally, we know that it looks very difficult to get inside a pineapple. So I wanted to make my surface of my sculptures look comfortable, look open, you know, but yet at the same time be vulnerable. Yeah. Because that's how I felt when you're at a new place and you might be the only person that looks like you or think like you, or you might be wrong, you know, and you are enjoying yourself and you're getting to meet new people and you're being open, and then something blindsides you.
Yeah.
You know, or what if you're in a room and you're at a job and all of a sudden your boss says something that is like really bad to the women in the group that's there? Are you going to say something, or you're not going to say something because that's your boss? Are you going to speak up and say, hey, maybe you shouldn't have said that? Or at least be kind of like smooth about it, not maybe go all into it. And that's a part of like feeling welcome in a space. So if something bad happened to you, that other people will recognize it and not be like, oh, I didn't hear that. They said something sexist to you. I don't remember that. You know, even though everyone does.
Yeah.
Or they'll text it to you under the table. Oh man, that's crazy what they said. But yet nobody's saying it out loud.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's being complicit in this whole idea of like, you're welcome, but you're not really welcomed.
Yeah. Yeah. I know there's so much to unpack in all of these works. I don't know that we could touch on everything, but there's something really interesting about this one. It's named after what its influenced, so the Dalek. And any of our Doctor Who fans out there will instantly know what that reference is. But for those who don't, what I find the most interesting about this reference is the way you described what the Dalek is, and how, I don't know, maybe I should just let you, because I want you to explain that reference and why it was important to you.
Yeah, thanks. First of all, this is like one of the first works that I created. It's like actually the second. I made one that was called Welcome, and then I made the opposite, which was the Dalek. So I wanted to show like there's two sides even in the same place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I like trying to make that case, because like so many times when people hear me speak, like, oh man, you're saying this happened. I'm like, everything is real. Everything's true. All this is life. You know what I'm saying? This is a part of life. Things happen, but it's how we handle things. So in this piece, I was thinking about like the other side of when you don't feel welcomed.
Yeah.
And the Dalek in the BBC's Doctor Who, they are an extraterrestrial culture that can go through time and space, and they're like the opposite of Doctor who is a time traveler, and these are the opposite. So these are the negative side of this whole science fiction like culture. And the Dalek are a technologically powerful race that go to different worlds and time and space and find cultures that they theme themselves as lesser, and they use that by destroying them. And they will like exterminate instead of like trying to create like, we're gonna take over this culture. They just decided it's not worth their time. We're going to destroy it completely because our culture is so much better than. So and that's how I felt when I was in a culture of intelligence. We were all in the same space, yet I was seen differently, even though we all came there supposedly for merit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this is like an equal place.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is an all equal place. We all had to send the same application. We all had to send work. We all had to get a fellowship to get there. So, but yet I was seen as I should be exterminated because of how I made work. So that's how this idea of the Dalek I created. So, and this is when I was also like still trying to figure out how to do the texture. Yeah. You know, and the texture is really goes back to why I said that I'm a 3D printmaker. Because I make all these works using a needle tool. Just the same needle tool that anyone would get in a ceramics 1 class, or every potter knows to use your needle tool. So I'm not using nothing different. It's nothing special. You can't buy something. It's actually like $1.02. You know what I'm saying? So like everyone can use the same needle tool. There's nothing. It's just because I'm using it in a way that you never thought of. Yeah. You know, because of my background in drawing and printmaking. So I use it as like an etching tool and scratch into the surface. So I like pull away from the clay. So I'm creating this texture that resembles raffia, that resembles hair, that resembles sweaters, things that will look comfortable in hair, things that will feel, or even like a ruffled shirt, you know, things that you would think of that feels comfortable, you know, tactile, something that you would want to touch and feel. Because I feel like, especially now going through COVID, we can't even touch one another. No, even exactly. Sometimes, so this is like kind of, which of course that had nothing to do with COVID when I made these, but now they have a different,
they have another layer that, whether it was intentional or not, is now there.
Yeah. So how would that feel like to be told that you couldn't make the work you want to make? You have to be, or like a Dalek saying you exterminate. So I was flipping the bulbous shapes of the Daleks. So if everybody go Google it after this talk, and so you can see what they look like, you will see the bulbous shapes reference the Daleks body. And so it kind of speaks to, like, because I see them, that shape is something that is also like a stress reliever. Because, like, you know, like the ball, stress ball. So I also saw it like that. So like that's another, but it also has like a traditional, like, tribal look from West Africa. And many of the enslaved Africans were most likely from West Africa, like Ghana and Nigeria. So I'm playing back to their traditions of what was welcoming and comfortable, and the rituals that made them feel like they were belonged.
Yeah, because they have very elaborate dresses and headwear that they wear, and it's extremely textured, which is where that connection to your work in my head comes. The texture and the tactile, and it's a really interesting reference to make.
But also, you would know if you're wearing a certain kind of headdress or wearing a certain kind of dress, you would know what kind of certain ceremony.
Yeah.
So you would know what kind of thing we were welcoming or initiating into. So I was being initiated to something I didn't know nothing about.
Yeah.
Get what I mean?
Yeah.
How is that really hospitable when I'm being initiated to something that I thought I was being initiated to, but I was being initiated to something else?
Yeah. That's difficult, to say the least. So you did send me a couple of images of works that are white and black color. So what made you want to change the color of the object for these specific works?
Yep. So these works are all made in porcelain, and you know, the history of ceramics, and just like, even though people may not even know, but it goes subconscious once again because of everything white. You see, like, white is pure, white is beautiful. So when you see something that's porcelain, you just automatically assume that's going to be worth more because of the purity of the white, material. Yeah. However, I'm flipping that idea. When enslaved Africans leaving from West Africa into the Middle Passage, the slave ship between the Middle and the Atlantic Ocean, many of them, were mutilated, killed, raped on that ship, to the point that some of them died because of the way they were being fed, or just because of all different kind of elements you get just being on a ship for 40 to 50 days, So, and then some jumped overboard because they could not live in that kind of subjugation. And then other times, the slave captains would throw many of the Africans overboard so they could eat better. Yeah. So there would be less less cargo, not even human beings, less cargo. Yeah. And they were used it just if you were working at McDonald's and call it waste. Mm-hmm. So what happens if you're in the Atlantic Ocean? What's in the Atlantic Ocean? In the water, in the sea, there's coral. Yeah. We all know because of environment that when coral dies, it turns white. Coral are beautiful and colorful, but when they die, they're white. Mm-hmm. So I was saying those who got thrown overboard, the enslaved Africans that got thrown overboard, they automatically have now turned white. Wow. That's powerful. So it also relates to the idea of, like, we can all know about, we're living in the world of Black Lives Matter and things of that nature, but I was always conscious. I've always been a conscious person. Yeah. So I didn't need Black Lives Matter to tell me that, or I didn't need the COVID to tell me that it was terrible that George Floyd died.
Yeah.
So my point is, why does it take a Black person or a Black man die for you to know my humanity? So this is where these are coming from.
It's a really powerful question. A very much needed question, actually.
So this one that you have on the screen right now is called Speak. And I was thinking about when I made it, like, you know, the speaker box of a boom box, or the subwoofer in your car when you're listening to your booming music. But at the same time, this is also speaking of the Black body that only speaks when it's dead.
Yeah. Wow.
Like, now you realize we need to do stuff about the coral reef, because we're seeing the environment not doing well. We're destroying our environment. Now we need to take care of it. Like, now we notice that Black people are being treated differently from the police.
Yeah. Like,
this has always been happening.
Yeah. As long as people have been around, it's been happening. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where it's coming from. So I'm like actually switching and flipping the idea of porcelain not being something that is pure.
Yeah. I think what you're making is extremely powerful and intelligent, and like conceptually, but also it's also very beautiful work. You're coming at it from so many different layers. I mean, I feel like we probably could be here for several hours unpacking all of your work, because there are so many references that are happening, and it is very powerful. I think we have a couple of more images that you sent me, and I think, if I remember correctly, these works that you made at Iowa for your thesis, and I'm sorry if I forgot the name. Is it called Welcome to the Afro City, or just Afro City?
Oh, yeah. Welcome to Afro City.
There you go. Welcome to Afro City. And so I wanted to maybe hear just like a little bit more about that concept. And I think that will help like close it out a little bit.
Yeah, great. Fantastic. This has been amazing. I've enjoyed this a lot.
I've enjoyed every minute of it. And I've even learned some stuff that you haven't said in previous lectures. And I, like I said, I really could talk to you for hours.
Yeah, so my thesis was called Welcome to Afro City, and I wrote my thesis paper called Welcome to Afro City. And, you know, since it's public, anyone can go read it. So go find it, you know.
I will.
But anyway, I love to plug things. I don't know what that's about, but I'm just being silly. But yeah. So the idea for my thesis show was going to be, since I want to do a reception, and I thought, what is the best way of truly welcoming and being hospitable in a reception? Is to have a party. Yeah. So my show was actually going to have a DJ. You know, and it was going to have a DJ. People were going to be dancing. Yeah. They were going to be, and it was the idea of the 50th anniversary of Afro City. Afro City, and it was the year 3021. And Afro City actually is in Iowa. Because of all the things that humanity has done to the environment, we all have to go subterranean. And for the poor, and then those who are really rich actually went into a space station that actually looked down on Earth, the rich. Yeah. But those who were poor and or on the margins during that time period, 50 years before 3021, had to go underground for 50 years because of the environment was so bad.
Yeah.
So when they came back and started a new world, it actually started in Iowa. It was the only area in what we now call the United States that any humanity could actually come up from the ground to. And we all know Iowa is predominantly right now white, but when people came out, it was completely new. The first people that created this new city were 2 Black people. And also another group that was Black and white couple. They were the founders of Afro City. So it was the idea, it has nothing to do with race. It has something to do that we have decided to initiate ourselves into a new world, that we are going to change and think about humanity first, not because of the skin color or the gender or the sexual orientation. We're going to speak about what humanity is. We all want humanity to grow. So that's where Afro City came from.
Well, let's hope that we can actually get there, that we think of humanity first before anything else. Like that's ultimately where all these like Black Lives Matter and all this stuff is coming from, is to think about humanity and people first, and think of us as humans first.
Yes.
It's very powerful, and I truly believe one day we will get there. We will.
Well, you know what? I have something different. I'm from the future. So I already know we are already there. If you're going to live like it, you should act like it.
Exactly.
In your present. You don't have to like, if you say that's what you believe, you can believe it now.
Exactly. That's powerful. Well, Donté, I like I said, I think we could sit here for hours talking. Your art is amazing. You are amazing. And I look forward to everybody discovering you and discovering your work. And thank you so much for taking a little bit of your day to talk to me.
Yeah, thank you, Tina. I appreciate this. I look forward to seeing you in real life.
Yes.